Alright guys, Murph's here, and today I want to talk about ethical conservational hunting. Now, ethical conservational hunting is definitely something that is predominant in the United States and several other cultures. However, we do need to talk about some of its origins and how people do things a little differently. I've hunted in quite a few locations. I'm not going to say I've hunted all over the world, but I've hunted in... Not really, I've not even hunted all over the country. I haven't gone out west yet, but I have hunted in Ohio, Florida, and Kentucky, as well as overseas in Germany. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on how ethical conservational hunting works and how it could or can look. Now, one of the important things we need to talk about with conservational hunting is kind of its origin. Now, in general, whenever we talk about nature, if you give any species the opportunity, it is going to consume as much of the resources and be as successful as it can be. That's just the nature of literally anything. Now, in humans, it's because we like to be successful. In animals, it's literally trying to drive forward to do that Darwin thing where they want to be able to produce more offspring and continue the expansion of their species. Now, the problem with the advancement of any species is that there's only so many resources in an area. So someone's got to lose. Now, nature is very good about keeping balance. However, there are some things that will upset that balance. And humans have been extremely adept at it because tools and technology, we managed to figure out how to come up with them, and that is what has put us at the top of the food chain. Now, during this conversation, don't take anything I say as to make me into some sort of like crazy Greenpeace all humans must die type thing. I don't like people, but I don't like them so much that I feel like we need to wipe out the entire human population. That's not where I'm going with this. What I'm trying to do is to lay out these differences about how things are done in other cultures and how it might be a great thing for you to adapt, or at the very least challenge some of your preconceived notions so that you can chew on that for a little bit and decide how best to apply it to you. Is what you're doing right now really the best practice? That's all I want to do. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I just want to give you something to think about. Now, so when we look at the expansion of the human population, we really have to take a look at the 18th and 19th centuries, where a lot of things really started to go our way. We have industry and the expansion of villages and a lot more things going on with like the fur trade and stuff like that, where we're trying to expand all these resources as the human population just continues to grow. And we come across resource-rich areas and we just go ham and trying to collect as much of them as we can and sell them to these cities and stuff like that so that they can continue to expand and grow and all that kind of stuff. However, there's an issue anytime any single species gets that type of expansion, and that is at the cost of the environment. Now, so I kind of like to put it in perspective like this. Let's say we have a very large population of rabbits. For whatever reason, they are managing to really expand. Perhaps there's no natural predator around to take care of them. So because of this, rabbits are actually an excellent example for this because rabbits procreate rather rapidly. So these rabbits are going to be more successful in competing for resources with other animals in that area. And that's going to cause a couple of things to happen. First off, it's going to cause conflict with those other animals, and they are either going to die off or have to move to a new location. Eventually, for the rabbits, there's not going to be enough resources to sustain that population in that area, which is going to cause the same issue. Either some of those rabbits, the weakest of those rabbits, are going to die off, or they're going to have to expand beyond that environment to another environment that may not be able to withstand that population. It might just continue to exhibit that issue. The same can be said when it comes to predators. If you have too many predators in one area, they're going to consume all of those resources. It causes conflicts between them and others, and then they will either drive each other out or kill one another. That's kind of how nature works as far as putting a limit on a population by only allowing so many resources in an area. You can only put so much in one area at the end of the day, and that is going to cause friction within the populations. Now, for humans, We aren't as restricted as that because we are not necessarily tied to any one environment. We figured out how to live in all environments. So we expand and adapt very quickly. So that made us very difficult for nature to pin down in that way. And you can see how successful we were by the destruction of the buffalo and other things like that in the 19th century. Now, another way to look at this for what got us to where we are now with animal populations like deer and stuff like that in America is that as we expanded westward, obviously farmers and other things like that became very pronounced. And farmers had a major interest in defending their cattle, be it from cattle rustlers or from predators coming in and destroying their livestock, destroying their livelihood and their capability to make money or even feed their own family. So what farmers did is what humans do in general, which was be very successful at eradicating a problem, which in this case was coyotes and wolves. Now, unfortunately, with that being the case, we have majorly decimated the wolf population, which has made it very difficult for nature to use predators to mitigate the progress of other species. With that being the case, eventually humans recognized that we had to step back in, and that's where conservational hunting came about. That's how we got hunting seasons and bag limits and drawing tags for different types of animals that, though they had a small population, still needed a little bit of a culling of the herd from a predator type existence. An example of that being in Kentucky, there's actually an elk hunt draw every year. Very few tickets are out there, and there's really not even that big of a population of elk. However, there's enough of a population that some of the older elk or perhaps younger elk that are maybe having some issues do need to be culled. There's still an advantage in having some hunters come out and harvest some of those animals. Now, that conservational idea has been reflected in other places because lots of places in Europe had the same kind of issue where the predator was destroyed, and now a lot of those species that previously would have been tamed or culled by the predator are exploding and are also running out of places to go. Now that's what we see here, where we see deer and other types of animals popping up more and more in suburban and city type environments because they have nowhere else to go. We've expanded too far and their population is too large. And that's one of the emphasis of conservational hunting, is to keep that population controlled, because it could potentially inadvertently cause harm to humans, be that by deer crossing highways in the middle of the night and causing accidents that result in death, or extreme cost and damages and all that kind of stuff. That is one of the purposes of conservational hunting, to try to keep that population under control. Now, as I mentioned before, I did some hunting in Germany, and that was actually one of the more illuminating things that I did there, was just to see the comparison of two hunting cultures between the United States and Germany. Now, I hold a hunting license in both locations, and in the United States, our hunting course strongly emphasized safety, hunter safety, firearms safety, and then talking about, different laws when it came to hunting seasons and ramifications for poaching and all that kind of stuff. That was what we really emphasized on. Now in Germany, their hunting course was much longer, far more expensive, I will throw that out there. However, the education that you got in there actually puts you closer on par to like a game warden, to where you understood what the animals were, how to be able to recognize the different sexes between the animals, how to be able to tell the ages of the animals, how long they carried their offspring before birth, what their birth months were, when their mating seasons were, and then when all of the animals, when their sounds like the cat's getting in trouble, when their hunting seasons were, and then also the different minimum calibers and stuff like that to be able to hunt these animals. And there were very strict rules, and also a very heavy emphasis on the tradition aspect of it. There was a lot of ceremony involved. inducting new hunters into the lifestyle or the culture, as well as beginning of the hunt, end of the hunt. A heavy emphasis put upon the reverence for the life of the animal to make sure that the animal got a last bite from a local tree, an actual natural tree to the area. You would cut a branch and you'd place it in the mouth of that animal so that they got their last meal. There was a very special reverence for life that I actually really appreciated, because as I've gotten older and lived through different conflicts and done different things through work and stuff like that, I've really come to appreciate the importance of life for everything. All life is precious. I've really come to believe that. And as much as it doesn't mean that I am shy from the prospect or process of being involved in armed conflict and being able to take a life, I still have a very strong reverence for what that means and how that should never be taken lightly. Now, another thing that I really loved about the hunting culture in Germany was the emphasis on taking an ethical shot. Now, that is of course brought up in American hunting culture as well, but I don't think we spend nearly as much time, nor do we put as heavy an emphasis on it as the Germans do. And I'll kind of explain the difference here now. Now, we of course talk about the ideal sweet spot being the heart and lung region. And the absolute best shot you could put on something is to have the bullet, or in the United States, the arrow, pass through the lungs and the heart region, both lungs and the heart. However, I know a lot of guys in the United States who will take neck or head shots because they feel that is a faster kill, and they feel they can make that shot. I know quite a few good marksmen who probably can 100% of the time make that shot. However, in Germany, the neck and head region are completely off limits. And if you make shots at the head or neck region, you'd better make them, but you might still be in trouble with someone for doing that. Someone's probably still going to get a little angry about it. Now, in addition to that, if you miss a shot, there are a lot of ramifications for that. As long as the animal is recovered and put out of its misery quickly, there won't be too much issue, minus someone's going to kind of give you a side-eye look anytime they see you show up on a hunt, and they're definitely not going to think very highly of your marksmanship capability. But let's say that you put multiple shots into an animal because you're having trouble putting it down. Regardless of the agreement you had with that farmer as to whether or not you were going to buy any of the animals that you shot, you are purchasing that animal. He's going to be extremely angry that you shot up that meat, and now he's not going to be able to make as good of a sale to a butcher with it. And when you consider that you were there at that farmer's behest, it's probably not a good idea to make him mad. And it's probably not a good idea to shoot up his meat. So you're going to wind up buying that. Now, let's say you go and make a headshot and you wind up shooting off the animal's jaw. That is going to cause a huge issue because that animal is going to be extremely difficult to recover. And they're going to bring out the tracking dogs and all that kind of stuff, but that animal may make its way into someone else's property. It may take some time to get the permission to enter that property, and the next thing you know, it's gone. Nobody can find it. First off, you may wind up paying for that. And second off, you may not be invited back ever, nor invited to anybody else's hunt, because word is going to spread about the terrible shot you made and the pain, the terrible pain you put that animal through, because it's not going to be able to eat. It's going to have a real hard time drinking, and it's going to die in utter agony. No one is going to be happy with you for making that shot. It doesn't matter what you think you can do. The safest thing to do in Germany when it comes to shooting is, if you even have an inkling that you don't have a good shot, just keep your fingers straight. Because it's not worth not being able to come out to anybody's hunt. No one will want to hunt with you. Now, I have brought some of these ideals back with me to America. I'm a little more forgiving in some aspects, though, because I do understand that I work and live among some absolutely excellent marksmen. So if you can make 100 out of 100 headshots, I'm there for it, man. Do what you do. I get it. That's some fantastic marksmanship, and there are some people out there who can do that. However, as soon as that average drops down to 99 out of 100, I really don't have any interest in hunting with you. I would sooner you take the maturity to wait for the better shot than to show me how fantastic your marksmanship may or may not be. That's what I would prefer to see. And that comes back to that reverence for life thing. I'm very, very serious about that. That comes down to even hunting birds and stuff like that. Taking a long shot on something because you think you can is not worth the pain you might put an animal through. That is how I think about those processes. That's what I get into. Now, also in Germany, they're very big about minimum calibers. So for cloven hoof game, you have to have something over 6mm, and I don't quote me on the feet per second, but I think you had to have over 2,000 feet per second. I can't remember for sure. It's been some years since I've hunted there. That was a requirement. Now, we have some things like that in the United States, but we are far more, it's by the state. So like in Kentucky and Tennessee, you can hunt deer with any centerfire rifle cartridge, which is unheard of in some states and is most definitely unheard of in Germany. Being able to hunt with like a 223, some of their deer, they would absolutely just be shocked that you would use that on anything other than like a fox. But that's kind of the differences in that type of thing. And that is why I put such a heavy emphasis in saying that to make sure that you match your cartridge to what it is that you're doing. I know plenty of people who've killed deer with 223. However, a lot of them are taking very short shots. So you kind of got to know your area, know what round you're using, and work within those capabilities so that you're not making unethical shots and you're not messing up a hunt by having to track an animal for hours, possibly into the night, and then putting that animal through misery for no other reason than you wanted to show off to some friends. Well, guys, that's pretty much my thoughts that I have on this. This is something that, I've mentioned in a couple of my sporting gun videos. Then I definitely wanted to kind of make sure that I gave it its due service to discuss it with you guys. Once again, I'm not telling anyone who's doing something right now that what they're doing is wrong, as much as I want them to consider their actions against these type of cultural norms from other places and see if it's something that they like. Kind of sample it for a little bit and decide if it's something that you want to apply in your life, or if you feel that it doesn't necessarily apply. You're already doing that, or you do something that's close enough. And if that's the case, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know some other people's kind of outlooks on what ethical hunting looks like and how they make that work for them. Well, like I said, that's what I got, guys, so have a good day.